money for a down payment, but he had something in high value that could be considered a down payment until he paid off, the truck, and then he could, uh, get that collateral back or pledge back. And his pledge was like I think it was like I think it was like some sort of gun, you know. But but yeah, that's what a pledge is. So so I'm gonna read it again. It says, "If thou at all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, thou shalt deliver it unto him by that the sun goeth down." So if he's borrowing, if you borrow something, or if he borrows something from you, you're supposed to give the pledge back by the time the sun goes down. And you know, so that way it says, "For that is his covering only, it is his raiment for his skin, wherein shall he sleep. It shall come to pass when he crieth unto me that I will hear, for I am gracious." So if you ever borrow something, you're supposed to give it back, uh, by the time the sun goes down. Um, then also, payment. Um, you're supposed to, um, pay someone by the time the sun goes down. Yeah, this is Deuteronomy 24:14. It says, "Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren or of thy strangers that are in the land within thy gates. At this day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it, for he is poor and setteth his heart upon it." So by the time the sun goes down, if you have a person working for you, you're supposed to give them their money, you know, before the sun goes down. And and it also, um, helps their psyche. That's why it says, because he setteth his heart upon it. Because they're poor, they're working really hard, they need that money by the end of the day. If not, they're going to be stressed and complaining about it. And it says right here, "Lest he cry against thee unto the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai, it be a sin unto thee." Because or in a lot of cases, most restaurants, you get tipped, for per table, and that's one way, you get paid before the sun goes down. Um, and that's a righteous thing. Um, and it also, like I said, it's better for your psyche whenever you get paid, you know, by the end of the day or as you're working, because it's a lot more stress free. Like going back to contentment, that we read in Timothy. It you can be content with that day's pay, because you got, if you're fed and then you got a little change in your pocket, you got a place to rest, you're good for the day, and you can worry about tomorrow, and you can see the little increases, day by day, and it's better for your psyche. You're not stressing about trying to manage things until your next paycheck, if it be a week or a month or 2 weeks or however, quarterly. Esau tells you to make investments and then you get paid out on a quarterly basement. Nah, man, forget that shit. Um, Unless, I mean, it is by usury. If you want to spend money to make money, then, you are going to have to wait. But, that a work for hire, though, money at the end of the day. Um, but this is Deuteronomy 15. I'm going to start at 1. It says, "At the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release." So this is going into the year of release, or right here they call it the Sabbatic year, or like Sabbath, like a year of rest, year of release, Jubilee year. So what it is when you forgive, debts, and also if you hire anybody, if you hire an Israelite or a foreigner, at the end of 7 years, you're supposed to let them go back to their family, and back to their fathers, so they can, you know, take part in their father's inheritance and their substance, and the families gather back together and go from there. Um, and he goes into it, verse 2, and this is the manner of the release: every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. And again, if you do lend, and if an Israelite does lend to another Israelite, they're not to do it with interest or usury. And if they lend it in this 7 years, or that every 7 years comes to pass, the sabbatic year, the year of release comes up, they're not supposed to uh, hold it over their head. You're supposed to forget about it. All debts are forgiven. He shall not exact it of his neighbor. And the word exact, when you go into it, it just means demand it. You're not supposed to, uh, demand it. Or of his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. Yahweh Ba'Shem Shah's release. Of a foreigner thou mayest exact it again. So, again, that's the difference between lending to a heathen nation and lending lending to an Israelite. Is if you lend to a heathen, a foreigner, then you can demand that money, once he comes back after that year of release. But that which is thine with thy brother, thine hand shall release, save when there shall be no poor among you. For the Lord shall greatly bless thee in the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it. See, and these laws are to keep us, wealthy, rich, not in need of anything. You know, Jacob was a plain man lacking nothing. We're not supposed to be, poor or needy. That's why these laws are in place, or that's why the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Shah gave us these laws. Only if thou carefully hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all these commandments which I command thee this day, for the Lord thy power blesseth thee, as he promised thee, and thou shalt lend unto many nations. See, and that's also in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Somewhere in the first 15 chapters, which I'll get to it. But yeah, it says, "Thou shalt lend unto many nations, but thou shalt not borrow, and thou shalt reign over many nations, but thou shalt not reign, but they shall not reign over thee." So, we're supposed to be over these nations, being the Shark Tanks, if you will. If you ever watch that show, Shark Tank, that's how we're supposed to be with, over the other nations, with our riches, resources. They're supposed to come to us. And matter of fact, that's prophesied. Isaiah 2. It's also Amos 9. Let's get Isaiah 2 first. Isaiah 2 and 1. The word of Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house, which is Israel, Zion, shall be established in the top of the mountains. And again, the mountains are symbolic for government structures, governing bodies. So the Lord's house, the Israel, the mountain of the Lord, Zion, or the Israelites, the governing body of the Israelites, is going to be established at the top of the mountains. So we're going to be, like Yahushua is the King of Kings. Well, the Lord's governing body is going to be over all the governing bodies, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. See, and when you, study finances or business, or just research it, because, if I say study, it implies going to school, but you really don't have to go to school. You can just go to the library, read some books on it. Um, you can learn about this thing called the velocity of money, and really what that means is where how fast money is being exchanged between businesses, people, and uh, what you'll find out is that money really flows into banks, and banks are the big uh, uh, lenders. And the reason why they say flow and use the terminology bank and deposit and withdrawal is because of a river. When you look at a river bank, you have what's called deposits. And let me look up river deposit. Yeah, you know. So you have what's called erosion, and then you also have a deposit. And a deposit is where all the minerals and resources go in a river. So it comes down and it delivers heavy metals and like gold. That's where you find gold and silver and iron. Is in these bank deposits, and then you know the water gets pushed and starts eroding and eating away. You know that's why they banks use that terminology, and that's why they call it a bank. It's because you have river banks. Um, but yeah, just wanted to say that. And we're, Israelites are supposed to be the bank deposits, the river bank, and all the nations are supposed to flow unto us and deliver us, all the the gold resources, so on and so forth. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So all the nations are supposed to come to us for the judgment, just like when wisdom, when Solomon was uh, was king. You had you had this take place. You had different rulers and people of the nations come to hear Solomon's wisdom. You know, so that they could go back and start practicing it. And in the kingdom of heaven, this is going to happen. Like everybody's going to be like King Solomon, and we're going to be set up, ruling over the nations. They're going to be coming to us, trying to learn righteousness and how to deal with money and what to do with all their resources. And verse 4 it says, And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, right? Because the purpose, the reason why people go to war is because mostly because wickedness, all right? They don't know how to manage their resources properly, so they resort to doing bad things, selling out those righteous morals to go steal and kill, because war is very profitable. It's free. Like if you think about it, you kill somebody, and you have all their resources left over. You just yoke that shit. Yeah, it's very profitable. It's very wicked, but it's very profitable. But when the righteous are established, there won't be any need for war because righteousness is going to go forth. We're going to show them how to, deal with their or riches, resources uprightly, so they won't have to go and fight wars anymore. But also Amos 9. Let's go to. I'll start at 11. It